You're listening to 860 AM WNOV Milwaukee.
Keon, I have another secret.
What's that?
Heart and Soul Radio Talk Show will air on Thursdays and Saturdays.
Heart and Soul?
You know, the show where entrepreneurs, organizations, and artists promote, communicate, educate, and motivate, having fun at the same time.
What time on Saturdays and Thursdays?
Saturday mornings from 8 to 9 a.m., Thursdays from 3 to 4 p.m.
We are going to keep the party train rolling.
That's right, Heart and Soul on Saturdays and Thursdays. Meet you there. This time, you can go tell everybody.
All right, then.
Thank you, Keon. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on Heart and Soul. We will be talking about get out the vote. I know everybody's probably tired of hearing about it, but we're going to do it again. Lena?
That's important stuff.
Senator Lena Taylor's here with me today, and we have voices from other people in our community. Hi, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great.
Oh, wonderful. So, you know, Keon, what do I normally usually say? I say, let's get started. Thank you, Keon. We are here today to get out the vote. Go vote. Lena, what day is that to do the vote thing?
November the 4th. It's a Tuesday. Always the first Tuesday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
first Tuesday in November, or first Tuesday in April, or in February,
okay.
right?
So I'm going to ask this question anyway, and I think it's been answered, but for people who don't know, do you need an ID now? That was a big controversy. Do we need an ID an ID?
You might need an IV if you don't go and vote. Woo, Lord, and have to deal with what we got now.
Exactly.
I'm going to need an IV.
I'll be sick the next morning on the 5th, okay?
But you do not need to have an ID at this time to go and vote. And I think that's a really important piece that we should talk about just for a moment if we could.
Go right ahead.
So the concept of whether or not you need an ID, there was a court case that frankly went all the way to the Supreme Court in the state of Wisconsin, where it was pushing back on the law that was created in the legislature, which was to require an ID. And many of the things, and you know, you could go to Wisconsin Eye and you could actually see the floor speech that I gave on the Senate floor related to the ID bill. And one of the things we did was outline many of the issues that made it equivalent to a poll tax. You know, back in the day, I of course, you know, I'm not that, and I heard the stories, but everything from counting the number of bubbles in the soap or, just, paying certain fees or taxes, that people had to do, and all of the additional barriers that were put into place for people. It was challenging, for them to be able to go and vote. So the concept of having any challenges today really goes against the grain for me of our constitutional right, of the right to vote. And so the concept of whether or not you have an ID, now you don't. But we lost the case, candidly. And so after this election of November the 4th, I'm sure that you more than likely, unless there's some other court proceedings that do stop it, you're going to potentially need an ID. But you do not need an ID for November the 4th. You can go, and if you don't know what things you need to show in order to be able to prove your residence, feel free to call 286-CITY and ask for the Election Commission. And the Election Commission will be able to help you with all of that information. They'll also be able to tell you where the Zeidler building is, which is right across the street from City Hall, where you can go and early vote, because you can early vote today and you can early vote tomorrow. Okay. Today is the last day that you could ask for a absentee ballot that you can fill out at home. And tomorrow is the last day that you can go and early vote.
Okay, great. Keon, I want you to give the number so people can call with questions, because I'm sure there are some questions, or we may answer everything you may need to know. And then, go ahead, Keon.
And Lena will definitely answer everything you want to know.
Definitely.
In the conversation today, call us at 414-444-5250. Once again, that number is 444-5250.
And I have a young lady with me today from the business sector, and I'm going to ask this question, but why is it important to vote? I mean, it's just another day for some people. They got to work. They got to pick up their kids. They got to go to the grocery store. Why is it important to take out that time and vote?
That's your right. At the end of the day, no matter what's going on, you take the time and go and vote. It's your right. Our grandparents, grandfathers fought very well for this right.
That's a good answer.
Well,
why should we vote?
Well,
Lena?
the truth of the matter is historically, yes, there are individuals who fought for the right to vote. I don't know. Are you familiar with Ezekiel Gillespie?
No, not really. But you gonna let me know about it.
I will.
Go ahead. Lay it out.
Ezekiel Gillespie was an African American man. He was a businessman. Mm-hmm. In addition to being a businessman, he went to vote because in Wisconsin, I don't know if you were aware, but originally in our Constitution, when it was created as a state, it was in the Constitution for all men to have the right to vote. But it couldn't pass. So they took it out of the Constitution. But then they did a statewide referendum. A statewide referendum, like now it's a referendum on the ballot. It was a referendum that was a statewide referendum on the ballot that was binding, if I'm not mistaken. But if it wasn't binding, either way it goes, that referendum said that unanimously, or not unanimously, but the majority, people said that all men should have the right to vote. That gave all men the right to vote. So in 1865, Ezekiel Gillespie went to vote in the city of Milwaukee because he had been given the right to vote.
Of course.
Through the referendum. And short version, he wasn't given that right to vote in Milwaukee. He was denied. But he was denied. He was my kind of Negro.
Okay.
He sued.
He sued. Okay.
He sued him all the way to the Supreme Court of the state of Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
And in 1866, the Supreme Court of the state of Wisconsin ruled in his favor. In 1866, can you imagine that there was a Supreme Court in the state of Wisconsin that ruled to give all men the right to vote?
All men.
All men the right to vote.
And that included women too at that particular time?
Well, you know it didn't. It didn't include white women. It didn't include no women.
I just want to make that
sure.
Right. You know all men.
All men.
And I want to clarify something. I was not back there in 18. What was it?
1866.
And I hope you wasn't back there either. And I don't think
I wasn't.
We wasn't back.
Black don't crack, but I wasn't back there.
Okay. I wasn't back there. That's something I heard from Lena. Okay.
But my point is the reason that our right to vote is so important, not just historically, like because of the Ezekiels or the people who went through Jim Crow and went through the challenges that they needed to regarding the right to vote, but it's important because of the issues that are dealt with by the people who are elected. Often people in our community are very challenged by the fact that we want things to be different, and we do. But the people who have been in the executive position, so for example, if you're somebody to go to church, I could break it down to you like this, right? So if you want to get something done in the church, who's the one person in the church that could make it happen?
The woman.
Well, outside of the first lady, probably.
Yeah, the woman.
I said,
the pastor.
The
pastor, right?
Okay.
So in a company, who is it? It's the CEO, right? It's the person that's the head of the company, right?
Yes.
If it's a nonprofit, it's the person who's running that nonprofit or the head of that board. So the head is always, right?
Okay.
The one that gets it done. So in a community or, having the vision from the executive, whether it's a county executive or whether it's a mayor or whether it's a president or whether it's a governor, having that vision come from those places is always what matters, and then having people who work with them in those various legislative positions is what matters. So
now,
that's people who are elected as common council or whatever. So I'm just saying, voting puts the people in place that create the policies and the things that create the funding and the contractual opportunities that happen in your community and for your business.
And I'm not cutting you off.
No, you're fine.
That's fantastic. When I've gone to the polls, I've voted at the same place for, I'm not going to say how many years, many years. And I have seen people literally turned away because this is not the place where you vote. How do you find out where you are supposed to vote in your district so you are not turned away? Because I do see people get frustrated. This is the place where I was told to come. And they say, no, they turn them away. And I'm 9 times out of 10, they probably turn away and go back home. So how do you find out where you are supposed to go and vote? And sometimes that changes with districts from year to year sometimes. But I've been voting in the same place
Well,
for
not
many
from year
years.
to year. It's every 10 years.
It's changed. Okay.
Yep, it's every 10
Okay.
years that it can change. But right now, when you're early voting, everybody in the city of Milwaukee goes to vote at the same place. And
Okay.
that's the Zeiler building.
Okay.
Because you go in-person vote at one place during early voting, which ends on Friday.
This Friday.
This Friday.
This Friday. Okay, this Friday.
You can request an absentee ballot from the Election Commission up until today.
So you don't have to worry about what district to go to if you're not sure.
Right.
But
you
if
can call down to the Election Commission, and because I don't know their direct number, you can call 286-CITY and say you need the Election Commission. And then they will be able to help you. Give them your address. They'll be able to help you to know where you vote, and then you get it right.
Okay.
Ain't no confusion.
Right.
You don't be saying, well, Lena said, you ain't, don't blame me. Just call 286-CITY, because I will tell you, I get lost with the GPS sometimes.
Oh,
so.
me too. I get lost just on my own. Okay, so I don't even use the GPS because that ain't gonna tell me nothing.
So, right.
I'm
So you can call Election Commission, and they will help you to be able to know where you can go. 286-CITY, CITY, and those exact numbers for 286-CITY are not on the top of my head, but I'm going to pull out my phone. So it's 286-2489.
Okay.
286-2489. And actually, I now have the number to the Election Commission.
Oh, bring
This
that
is
out.
what it's like, y'all, when y'all got a chief of staff that's on like a chicken bone.
And I wish I had one, but I got two wonderful men. I got to mention them, Keon and Josh. I love you both. Okay,
286-4060. 286-4060. That's the number to the Election Commission.
We should get some T-shirts with that on there.
Hey, we should get some tickets to some T-shirts that say "Go Vote."
Yeah, we should.
The number to the station. I do know the number to the station because often I call the station, which is the place where you get solutions in the community. But I do have to take a moment to look it up because I don't want to give out the wrong number to the station. I know it starts with a 4. It has some 4s in it. And look, it's 444-5250. 444-5250. See, I'm here to serve.
Okay, great. Has that ever happened to you? Are you ever confused, or anybody? Have you seen anybody turned away because they're in the wrong place?
No, I vote.
You would have to mess up my intro, right?
But you know what I
gotta
can
tell the
tell you
truth.
about that, even if she hasn't seen it, with the redistricting. Redistricting happens every 10 years.
Okay.
And we just had redistricting. And so I need everybody to know that if you think you know where your polling place is, you might not. Because the districts have been drawn so crazy. And people are not voting where they normally have voted. So at the primary where you voted is where you'll be voting again if you voted in the primary. But if you haven't voted in a while, you might not be voting in the same place. So I had one woman tell me, we used to vote at the school right across the street. Now we got to go all the way to Vincent High School to vote, which is a significant ways away from where she is. And on top of it, for people who are there who don't have transportation, it's going to be a very difficult experience for them to get all the way over to Vincent High School to be able to go vote. I'm talking about, think about it, like 107th and Good Hope, all the way down to where Vincent is where people, and those people are actually on the other side of 107th and Good Hope. So it's going to be challenging. So redistricting has changed people's polling places. People will sometimes go and it may not be the right place. And if it isn't, don't give up. Just go on and trudge your way another way. We'll put out some numbers. My law office number is 344-4LAW. And so if you need a ride to the polls and you don't have one and you can remember my number 344-4LAW, what I will do is connect you with individuals that are giving rides, or if I have to come get you myself, because I'm serious about making sure that people go out to vote. This is a serious time. We need to be like Ezekiel Gillespie. We need his kind of energy and spirit. Our community is economically struggling. Our community emotionally and socially, in many ways are struggling. Our children, which is our future, are not getting the foundation that they need, and the investment that needs to happen for them to not only get the education, but for them to be connected to employment. Their parents aren't being employed. We can't afford to be silent and be on the sidelines and not be going out to vote. So yes, if it's challenging for you, please think about the people who went to vote during apartheid.
Yeah,
and was able to vote. I mean, after apartheid, please think about the individuals in America, or the person like I told you about, Ezekiel Gillespie, who fought and sued. I know it wasn't nobody on the ballot that looked like him, and it probably wasn't nobody on the ballot that was going to do too well by him, but he still went to vote.
And another question I have, it's not really a question, it's really a comment. I think sometimes we get frustrated because the people that we do elect, they're not really representing our needs. Once they tell us they're going to do everything from A to B to C before they get in there, and then when we get in there, it's like, what's happening? How do you feel about that?
I guess I haven't really given that much thought. It makes me angry when they make all kinds of promises and don't follow through. They say they will create all kinds of jobs and whatever, and that never comes to fruition. It's very frustrating.
And that's why a lot of people don't really want to go out and vote, because if I go vote,
that's the very reason you need to.
But that's sometimes the feeling inside.
Okay, but then we need to learn how to rechannel the anger into action.
That's right. We have a caller. Good afternoon, caller. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon. And first, I would like to say I have seen hundreds of people come to the polls and have to be turned away.
That's Mama
And
Rose.
the reason why I'm saying that, because right now I am a chief inspector at one of the polling places. We have people that will come and they're not ready. They haven't voted. They can't even go back to their old address. They've moved. They come to register to vote. Or they come and their polling place has been changed. Then they'll get mad and call me all kind of black bees and all that kind of stuff. And you're being the white folks in because you work it here and you won't let me vote. That's not the case. You must have been in your vote, where you want to vote, where you can vote for a number of days.
That was one of those, Miss Mama Rose, that was one of those laws. There were 30 laws that got changed by the Republicans since 2011. In this last session, almost, if I'm not mistaken, about 30 laws that tweaked away at our voting rights in different ways. So one of the things that we heard Mama Rose just speak about is one of those little ways that they tweak the laws. They tweak the law so that now you can't do early voting on weekends.
Right.
And you can only do certain number of hours. And
you know what, Selena, I want people to know, just because you live across the streets from your brother, your sister, your girlfriend, boyfriend, or your BB or whatever, don't mean that you vote at the same place.
That's right.
They used to have it where the whole street was at, and the dividing line was in another street. But now they made the dividing line right down the middle of the street. Say you lived on Capitol. The person on the other side of you vote somewhere else, and you vote at a different place, and they'll get angry when they say, my friend, I rode down here with them, and if they vote here, you just wrong. Please, I want everyone to vote that can vote, please. But just be patient. Call those numbers that they've given out to find for sure. Don't listen to somebody else to say, I vote over here and you vote over there. No, that's not
right.
it. I can't
express it enough.
I can't say it any more than I have to, because when you're an African American or something like that, and you're the chief inspector or even just work at the polls as an election commission person working there, you catch near hell because they come there with an attitude, and they think you're not trying to help them. But our hands are tied to certain things that we can say to you, certain things we cannot say. And this time, you're going to have to say your name and your address out loud enough for those evil people that's watching, poll watchers, those people, they can hear it. Because only who you vote for is private, but the other stuff is out in the open.
All right, Ms. Rose.
You understand
Yes,
me?
I do know what you're saying, Miss Rose, and the reason
Yeah.
that that's important is because that's another one of the laws that they changed.
Yeah.
They changed the law so that they can stand closer to you when you get ready to go and vote. And so when you are talking about people being angry, Wanda, and whether or not they should vote, these are the things. This is the reason you're going to vote, because when you don't vote, people get elected who allow different pieces to happen that are tweaking away your rights, and you don't even realize it until it's up on you, standing at you at the booth. Thank you, Mama Rose.
Mama Rose.
Mama Rose. Doing. I appreciate what you're doing. I'm loving this. I'm loving it real good. Okay.
Mama,
Thank you so much.
Mama Rose, I want to let you know we're having another business mixer. You was there last month and a couple months ago. I'm inviting you again. It's at Garfield 502. We had a fabulous time with you. It starts at 9 to 1, and we're having a fashion show this time. We'd love for you to come and do a little speech.
The date?
The date is, November 1st, which is this Saturday. We'd love to have you come and speak a little bit. We're doing presentations, and I want to say we'll be right back.
There's a new teen and young adult show called
We Are the Future. We are going to have a blast.
We're going to be talking about educational information and events for teens plus young adults.
And also important topics in our schools and community.
And we're going to share our talents with the world with a can-do attitude. Join us every last Saturday of the month for
We Are the Future.
Every last Saturday of the month at 8 a.m. here on 860 WNOV, The Voice.
Would you like to be a guest or a sponsor on Heart and Soul and join the Heart and Soul family? Contact Wanda at area code 414-760-8653. That's area code 414-760-8653. Or let me know how I'm doing. Email me. My email address is heartandsoulwandawilliams@gmail.com. That's heartandsoulwandawilliams@gmail.com. Thank you, Keon. Oh, we're having such a great time. Thank you, Miss Mama Rose, for your input. We love it.
It's so important to have people who are at the polling sites that are like Mama Rose, who have been there and, have patience to be able to work with people, and can be, unbiased, but, also, comes on the radio and shares those things so that people understand the importance of going out to vote.
I have a question. I got a two-parter here. If you don't need an ID, and sometimes we get to the wrong place, what do we need to vote? What do you need to have to bring with you to vote? And sometimes it gets even confusing to me. Who's on the ballot? Who are the individuals that are on the ballot this time when we go to the polls?
Well, you asked a couple questions in the midst of that. So I want to start with, what's needed. I will say this, I think it is always important to, go to the horse, right? Get it from the horse's mouth, so to say. So the Election Commission is the best resource for you. And again, the number that I shared with everyone before, 278-4060. 278-4060 is the Election Commission, but the city's number of 286 City will also get you where you need to. So I think asking what you can bring or what you need to bring if you have to register, if you're not
Right.
registered, check to confirm if you're registered, all of those kinds of issues. I encourage you to make that kind of effort
Now,
with the election commission to know what you need,
Right.
where you go. Then you get it accurately.
Okay, I'm just going to interject something. Many years ago, I remember when you just needed a piece of mail and prove where you lived. Is that
Same
still,
basically.
It's the
It's
same
basically
thing?
that same concept.
Bring some mail.
It's
at any
basically
time?
that same concept. But what I want to encourage is that if you think for some reason you're going to need to register, or if you think for some reason you're not sure you know what you need to bring, if you don't have an ID and something that establishes your residence, then I encourage you to call 278-4060, which is the election commission, or call your alderperson, call the city, call somewhere where you can get directly connected to the election commission, and then that way you get the right information.
And having said that, I'm going to interject here. We're not.
But you asked me a second question.
And I'm
Okay.
The second question is coming. I'm gonna do a
Okay.
little something before that second question.
Well, you
And then-
asked it.
Yeah,
And
no.
oh, okay.
You
You go-
answered the question excellently. I'm gonna add a little something
Oh,
to
I
this
see.
next question
Okay.
you're gonna answer, because you already know what it is. I asked you a question. We not endorsing nobody here, but the question I did
Well,
ask.
I am, but I respect you might not be on your show.
Okay, exactly.
It
I'm
ain't
not
Christmas,
endorsing-
but I'm feeling merry.
Okay. 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 All right. But I'm not endorsing anybody. I'm neutral. But who's on the ballot? Sometimes that confuses me when I go in there and I see all these names and I'm like, well, is this the Republican? Is it the Democrat? Who's on the ballot?
Okay, so I'll talk to you about who's on the ballot, and then and I'll talk to you about the other things that are on the ballot.
Okay, which is
And-
great.
And then I'd like to come back and have a little some conversation with you on talking about you neutral and what that neutrality means in our community.
Now, wait a minute. I said neutral. I didn't say I wasn't going out and voting. Now, I'm going to tell you I'm neutral.
Oh, I see what you said.
But when
You-
that
when
little
you got
curtain shing or whatever it do.
Right. When your pencil go.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm going to vote my conscience.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and then you-
well, I want to help influence your conscience in the name of Jesus.
Okay, there you go.
All
There
right.
you go.
So the ballot, who's on the ballot? Well, we have different races that are happening. So these are midterm elections. During midterm elections, this is when there are U.S. Senate or congressional races. We do not have a U.S. Senate race in our state, but at the top of our ticket in our state, we have our gubernatorial race, which is the seat for the governorship, the governor's office. We have congressional races. There are congressional races around the state that are happening, but there's one congressional race that affects the city of Milwaukee, and that is the seat that Congresswoman Gwen Moore is running in. And she has, I don't know who running against Congresswoman Gwen Moore. It shouldn't matter. Because
Lena,
I'm sorry.
I'ma
I
give you a
forgot you
love
said
hug.
you
I'ma give
neutral.
you- I'm
You
neutral. I'ma
said
give
you
you a
neutral.
love
I'm
hug.
sorry. So I
there's
should have had a other.
Nobody's running against Gwen Moore.
There is someone, and I'm
but you
sorry
don't.
I did
Okay.
not come prepared with that person's name. So I guess if somebody has the person's name that's running
And
against
kudos.
Congresswoman
She's
Gwen
giving
Moore.
you kudos right now. She's saying, I
I'm
got much
so
love. Much
I'm
love.
so sorry. I do not know
Okay,
who that is.
go ahead. Continue.
There is the gubernatorial race, and there is Governor Walker is running.
Okay.
And the candidate that's running against him is a businesswoman
Okay.
who was a former commerce secretary, who is a school board representative in the Madison area.
Okay.
And her name is Mary Burke.
Mary Burke. Okay,
Mary
now
Burke.
Moving on.
And so Mary Burke is running for governor.
Okay,
and
that's the biggie.
That's the top of the ticket where
That's-
Mary
that's
Burke
gonna
is
be on top,
right
okay.
where Mary Burke is running for governor against the person who is presently our governor. So
And-
it's
okay.
Mary Burke or the person that's presently our governor.
There you go.
So
Gotcha.
so
Gotcha.
it's change or presently our governor.
Okay.
And so then there is the attorney general's race, which is a hugely
I've
important
heard of
race.
that.
Yeah, and there hasn't been a whole lot of conversation
hasn't.
about it. There are two individuals running. There's a woman by the name of Susan Happ, and then there's a gentleman by the name of Brad Schimmel running.
Yes. Seeing the commercial.
Yes. And so Brad is a Republican and Susan is a Democrat. But beyond that, and clearly Brad is a guy and Susan is a girl.
Yes.
But beyond that, I will say that there's a different approach in the way that they present and what they believe that the Attorney General's office is about. It seems that Mr. Schimmel, feels very strongly about the component of law enforcement and not about the component of protecting the citizens and the environmental piece as much. And that's really, I think, important because that piece is a piece that I really expect that someone should be concerned about in an attorney general, because the truth of the matter is they are the lawyer for the people.
Right.
And that includes not just in law enforcement and crime situations, but it also means in civil suits, and it means protecting our environment so we can have, drinking water, and, so that we don't have contaminated water like we heard was being advertised, was the water was going to smell different. But imagine if you were like the areas in Virginia, where they couldn't bathe in their water, shower in their water, drink their water, cook with their water. So, you want to have good water. So these are important issues, and you want your attorney general to be able to care. Secretary of State, there are representative jobs that are up, state representative jobs and senator jobs. Only in the odd districts are state senators up. All state representatives are up right now. There's a county supervisor race.
Okay.
For the seat that David Bowen had. And so it is the county supervisor race where Martin Weddle is running.
Okay.
And clever like a fox, Charlie Fox is running. So Martin Weddle, and then Sheriff Clark is running, and Angela Walker is running. And so one of the things that you also should know is that there are 4 questions on the ballot.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you just 1 second. Good afternoon, caller. How you doing? Thanks for calling.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good. Hi, caller.
Hey, Lena. This is Dolores.
Hi.
Hi. You had asked about who's running against Gwen.
Oh,
I think it's
yeah,
Gary George,
Dan.
isn't it? Or were you just not saying?
Dan Sebring. Someone did text me to remind me it was Dan Sebring.
Okay. What happened to Gary George? I thought he ran against her.
Gary
He's
George.
in the primary.
Gary George ran in the primary against Congresswoman Moore. I think he ran as a Democrat in the primary.
Oh, okay.
And so she won in the primary. She won in the primary, and then there was a primary on the Republican side. There was an African-American guy. What's his name? I know his name. David King. He ran against me before. David King ran against Dave Sebring, and Dan Sebring, and David King lost, and Gary George lost, and then Gwen Moore, Congresswoman Moore, is running for re-election, and then that Dan Sebring, who's ran against her like every time.
Okay, so he's the Republican. Okay, that's good to know, because I had forgotten about that.
I had forgotten about it too.
But I'll be glad when you get back. So do tell us about that referendum question, because I'm not sure about that. Okay.
There are 4 referendum questions, and I'll talk about those. And I hope that everybody will remember that the gubernatorial race is an extremely important race. It's at the top of the ticket, but the attorney general race is awful important. We want to support, Congresswoman Moore. The Secretary of State race are 2 individuals there, too. And that's a really interesting race there. It's La Follette, who has been the Secretary of State for a significant period of time, and a gentleman with the last name of Bradley that is running. I do not know his first name, but he's running for Secretary of State. He is an African-American man running on the Republican ticket. I'm supporting La Follette. Oh, I'm sorry, you neutral. I forgot on the show. And so Martin Weddle is running for county supervisor. And, Mac Weddle is over at Northcott. And that's Mike Weddle's son that's running.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, Mike Weddle's his dad is really excellent. He's a really excellent guy.
Yeah, Martin is too.
He's a big
he's
supporter.
A good guy. Yeah,
Supporter
he's a really
of the show.
good guy. He's a really good guy.
I really like him a lot.
And I think Angela Walker, her button looked like the Angela Davis button. Did you see it?
No.
I was like, oh, girl, I like your button. That is sharp. I like that button. She's got the afro. But anyway, Angela Walker is running against David Clark.
Oh,
and so,
really?
if I'm not mistaken, she's running
a
as an
woman,
independent.
A woman,
an African-American woman.
Is running against Joe Clark?
David Clark.
What is his name?
Joe Clark was in the school.
That shows you how much I'm into politics, okay? Like I said. Yeah, but I do go out and vote, so,
Praise the Lord.
Okay. That's great. A woman is running against
Angela Walker.
A woman.
Angela Walker. She is not related to Skywalker. That is the only Walker you are allowed to vote for on this ticket.
Another thing I want to say, how many women, maybe you don't know this off the top of your head, statistically, we vote. How many of us really go out and vote?
That's a very good question. One of the things I will tell you is there's a group by the name of Higher Heights. And I really want to encourage individuals to go out and to Google Higher Heights and to learn about Higher Heights. The reason I want you to do it is because Higher Heights is an organization that really talks about the very thing that you're asking, which is what kind of turnout do women offer, but in particular, do Black women offer?
Exactly.
Because Black women are the number one vote givers of any subgroup, more than Black men, more than white women, more than white men, more than Asians, more than Native Americans. Black women are the number one subgroup, more than young people.
That's excellent.
So one of the things to remember is if you are from such a powerful group, it is important for you to exercise your right to vote and then to also be engaged so that you can help to create the work and the accountability that has to come after the voting, because the voting is only like the beginning of the game.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You need to be a part. You need to be a part of what's happening to, keep things going after that. I'll tell you, Higher Heights it talks about how Black women make up 7.4% of the U.S. population and 7.8% of the electorate.
Wow.
But only make up 2.6% of Congress.
Ooh.
Right.
Not good.
Right. So we need to be engaged. And if we're not at the table, I'm a part of an organization called Will Wan. And one of the things we talk about is the importance of women being at the tables of power. So if we're not in the room, if we're not at the table, then, either we're on the menu or not even thought about.
Okay. And piggybacking on that, how many Milwaukeeans vote when elections come up? Now, I'm going to ask you don't, and you looked at me like, why not? I'm going to hit you in the head for asking me that
Well,
question.
I want to answer the question from before about the referendums before we get too far. Yeah, before we get too far away from it. We talked about the people that are on the ballot, and although the number of individuals that vote in Milwaukee, and that statistic is an important one, and we can talk about that and the influence that we have based on our numbers. But before we talk about that, I really want to talk about the questions that are on the ballot and to encourage people to have some level of understanding of those questions. So one of the questions on the ballot is about question number 1 is about the expansion of the Medicaid dollars.
Yes.
So in particular, this directly connects to Badger Care. Okay. And whether or not Governor Walker should have taken all of the dollars for Medicaid expansion. And some people might be confused and say, well, we expand and then the federal government, if they don't give us dollars, what that means, later on. Well, first of all, later on ain't here, number one. And you can always modify what you do because that's what we always do as a state or as a legislature. We should have accepted those dollars. I think, people should vote that we should should have accepted those dollars. The problem is that we didn't. Those dollars didn't just go away. They went to another state. And then people don't just not get sick and not need health care because we didn't accept the dollars.
Exactly.
It still is so. So those are still major issues.
This is I think one of the biggies. Increase of minimum wage. I mean, if you talk about that, the whole room is going to stand up and just lose it.
There is no question,
the minimum wage should be raised. And I'm going to ask you personally, what do you believe it should be raised to?
Well, let me say a couple of things. I believe people need so much more than minimum wage being raised. There is no question that people living and supporting their family on minimum wage, they need more. And that's and $7.25 an hour ain't gonna get them there. And frankly, $10 an hour don't get them there. But the truth of the matter is, we need to get people on tracks to careers that will be living wage jobs.
Okay.
And that's a huge issue. We need to create industries that will do that. for us. We need to create industry in forestry. We need to, do more in ag and water. Those are all connected, to agriculture. We need to do so much more in that area. I, have a vision and plan around doing some things with the parent centers, to make them more useful. But before we, kind of go down that wave, so minimum wage and doing that piece is increasing minimum wage is a really important piece. And I know that the one Culver's, I think the gentleman for Culver's also mentioned a plan of how he implements minimum wage at one place for students, at another place for individuals who are working to support their families.
Oh, really?
And he does it a little different. I think the conversation about this has to ultimately get out there where we really are doing something to try to make sure that we're helping families. And I'm concerned about when people do get the increases. I also want us to deal with the pieces that affect their low-income housing, their child care, their food stamps. Those are pieces that also have to be connected, because when you're a family that's working poor, and we have to think about those pieces, because if you can't get child care, guess what? You can't work.
You can't go to work.
Right.
To work.
So all those pieces,
yes.
I want to see all those pieces being worked on, because some of those are issues that have to be dealt with at the federal level, and some of those are issues that we can deal right here at the state level, and some of those issues are creative issues where it requires conversation with business owners.
Now, I'm going to ask one last question before we go to the break. I'm sorry.
Oh.
The transportation referendum, what is that?
The transportation referendum is one that basically says, should there be one pot for transportation dollars that can't be touched by anyone except the Department of Transportation? And so basically the administrative appointee by the governor is the person who heads, DOT. So on November 4th, it reads, voters will be asked to require that the revenues generated by the use of the state transportation system be deposited into a transportation fund administered by a Department of Transportation, administered by the Department of Transportation for the exclusive purposes of funding Wisconsin's transportation system, and be prohibited for there to be any transfers or lapses from this fund. So what does that mean? It goes in one pot. It only can be used for transportation. Well, if that transportation was defined and it meant buses,
that's what my question was,
and it meant also highways and roads and potholes, and it meant transportation to our kids to school, that would be different. That's not how it's defined. So it potentially could only mean highways, or that kind of construction. So the devil is really in the details. And so because of that kind of segregated fund use, I'm not for that, because it also means during a rainy day, or a day when times are tough and we need to, work it out so that we can take care of the things that are most pressing, for us in our state, and then work out in another way to be able to deal with funding transportation. It doesn't give us that opportunity. And I know some would say, well, the fund is, presently missing, very low. Well, it's low because the Republicans got rid of the gas tax, which when you go to do your gas, you paying like 0.01 cent or, something like that. From every gallon of tank gas that you get, you're paying. Well, all of that, with all of us buying gas, turns into a fund that helps to make sure that our municipalities and our counties, as well as our highways and all of those pieces, get dollars for the transportation fund. But if we don't have the gas tax, which we don't, it puts our fund in this particular situation. So I would vote no on the referendum on transportation if it was me, but that is what that piece is. I would vote yes on the Medicaid money. I support the minimum wage piece, but there's other work that has to be done around that we have to remember, because people will lose their child care and some of those pieces potentially depending on the size of the family. If it's large, they won't, but if it's 2 kids or 1 kid, it's possible. And then the other question is about whether or not the county executive position should not be an elected position but an appointed position. And I know some people are very pissed. with the county executive. But I'm going to say this. I don't think we should cut off our nose to spite our face. I don't know that I agree with an appointed county executive.
Okay.
I think an elected one from the people is an important piece.
All right. We'll be right back on Heart and Soul. Thank you, Lena. Senator Lena Taylor. I got to get that out. Give props. Senator Lena Taylor.
Attorney Lena Taylor, too.
No, right. Attorney, too. Girl, what don't you do?
I'm Isaiah Mama.
Okay.
I be trying not to wash, but I have to do that, too.
I know it. We'll be right back. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful show. I would love and like and excited to thank Senator, Attorney, Mama. Is there something else I should add in there?
Sister, friend, daughter.
Sister, friend, daughter. What else? Is that it? I could be here all night long.
Girl from the block.
Okay. For coming on. I want Lena to leave us with some pertinent information about the vote on November 4th.
I want y'all to rise up y'all Ezekiel Gillespie spirit.
Yes, I am.
And I want y'all to go and vote. And I want you to go vote early. Go today. Go tomorrow. But go vote early so you can then take some folks to the polls. And Wanda may not be doing endorsements, but I hope that I hope that Wanda will go vote for Mary Burke.
Okay.
And I want you to vote for who's happening, Susan Happ.
Okay.
In the Attorney General's what's happening. Okay. It's Susan Happ. And I encourage you to vote for the Secretary of State, Mr. LaFollette. Please, if you are in the county supervisor district where Martin Weddle is, I support Martin Weddle, Gwen Moore, Congresswoman Moore, support her, but she also is supporting Martin Weddle as well as many other individuals. Please, go out and vote. Yes, 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 yes.
You gonna sing too?
On number 1, number 2, and number 4. Some people would encourage you to also do it on number 3. I don't think we need a appointed county executive. I think we need an elected county executive, so I encourage you to vote no.
Go ahead, Lena. Go ahead. Lena, I want to thank you for coming. Every time you come, it's a pleasure. We have such a good time. You'll be back very soon if I have anything to do with it. Thank you for supporting my show. You were one of the first individuals to support my show when I came to you. I love you for that. I love you.
I appreciate you for doing this. Businesses often aren't getting the voice that they need. And so thank you for what you do.
Thank you. I want to say I will vote my conscience on the 4th. You do the same. I want to say God bless, and I love you all. Thank you. Good afternoon.